The air was cool as the ground released, days heating long.
What Belongs to You is a novel in 3 parts, and the first and third part tell the story of an unconventional, compromised love affair between 2 men. The narrator, who's an American high school teacher living and teaching in Sofia, Bulgaria, and a younger Bulgarian man whom he meets. The middle section is distinct from that and tells the story of the narrator's childhood growing up in the American South. I wanted to think about certain kinds of sociality and certain kinds of particularly gay male sexual community that I think are seldom seen as being places of full and complex human value. Those are places that have been important to me in my own life as a queer person, especially as a queer person in the pre-internet American South. And I think they're places that allow for the full gamut of human feeling. They allow for tenderness, they allow for violence, they allow for intimacy, which is just to say that they're human places like any other.
It is a very interior story, so it is less about the events that unfold between them, although that's part of the story, but more about the psychological experience of that relationship. Garth's exploration of the mind of the narrator as he's navigating this very complex relationship reflects on aspects of balance and transaction and power that are to some extent, I think, present in all relationships, and that makes it very, very interesting. Fairly early on after the book came out, Garth and I started talking about what might an opera of this be like and who might do it, and how would you deal with having an operatic adaptation of this very intense one-character story. And we started brainstorming about composers, and David was someone who early on I brought to Garth's attention as someone who I thought could be a really great person to compose an opera for What Belongs to You.
I think the thing that I found so remarkable in the book was how much I did identify with. That doesn't necessarily mean that I have experienced all the things that the narrator experiences in the book in a literal sense, but I felt that I had experienced on some level nearly all of it in an emotional sense. Ideally, I think with a work of art, you want people to take from it what they need and see in it what they need and connect with it in a very deep, personal way. I like that idea about the piece, that it could be many things, that it is many things.
It was very clear to me that Garth's writing was really prime for this kind of adaptation. There is a sense of lyricism and of attention to rhythm and sound in Garth's writing always.
This is the 3rd opera for solo voice that I've written. So this idea of a solo singer kind of changing perspectives as the piece progresses, something I feel very comfortable with. Sometimes he's speaking directly to the audience. Sometimes we're watching him experience a dramatic moment. So there is this moment, there is this sense that who he is always kind of spinning.
I think that that's cool in a way to kind of like rethink these traditions of art song and opera and what is opera anymore. And I love singing songs. I love approaching songs in that way of like creating a scene for people and really storytelling. David has definitely tapped into a sound world that feels internally tormented and also rapturous all at once. And it's clearly a character that has a really hard time expressing that. So then, obviously we get a sound world that is pretty manic and wild and scary and all of those things and intimate. But at the end of the day, the onus is on us to create something that is for the audience, not just for me or David or Garth.
Garth and I went to school together, and I got to know Garth, right as he was coming out of that experience of growing up in Kentucky. And so much of that experience that Garth was having earlier in our friendship of coming of age and dealing with that baggage is processed in the book. And so for me, there is a very personal connection to the material that I'm conducting in What Belongs to You.
David spent time learning about the history of friendship that undergirds this project. The fact that, you know, I have known Alan and many members of Alarm Will Sound for 25 years. The fact that Kareem and I were in the same voice studio at the Eastman School. And that DNA, which is part of the DNA with which I wrote the book, is also part of the DNA of the opera. And so I have had, listening to the opera now over the course of months, there is this very strange experience of hearing language that I put on the page many years ago now, and hearing that sort of through the musical prism of music that was central to my development as an artist 25 years ago. I mean, there is this vertiginous sense of kind of being shown myself and being shown things that I've made in a kind of radically new way.
Nourishment from an inadequate soul.